So it's election season right now, and along with that comes all of the media of watching our politicians, in particular the leaders of our parties, crisscross the nation, doing their best to win us over and gain our votes. But if you were watching the news this week, there was a confrontation when Jagmeet Singh was canvassing through a neighborhood in Quebec, and a gentleman came up to him and gave him some advice. He said, "You should cut off your turban so that you look more Canadian." Now, Jagmeet's response was full of grace. He said to the man, "No, actually, I think that Canadians look like all of us, and that there is room for all of our identities and expressions and appearances to be Canadian." But it's interesting to see how Jagmeet is dealing with something that no other Canadian politician or leader of a major party in Canada has ever had to face into. The kind of latent prejudice and stereotyping, frankly, the racism that exists within all of us in Canada. And it's amazing to see the beauty and the grace with which he responds to this. But it reminds me of an earlier moment. There was one where Jagmeet was accused of being a Muslim and trying to bring Sharia law into Canada. And instead of correcting that accusation by saying that, no, he's not a Muslim, he's a Sikh, that's why he wears a turban, what he said was, no, this is not what Muslims are trying to do, and we need to learn to respect our neighbors, our Muslim brothers and sisters and neighbors for their religious freedom and what they bring to this country as well. And that reminds me very specifically of an encounter that Jesus has. In the Gospel of John, Jesus is confronted by the religious leaders. They don't like what he's teaching. They don't like the way that he is broadening the scope of what it means to encounter God. They come to him and they accuse him. They say to him, aren't we correct in saying that you are a Samaritan and demon-possessed? And Jesus responds by saying, I am not possessed by a demon. He challenges them by saying, no, your accusations are not true, but he refuses to even acknowledge the fact that they are identifying him with what they consider to be a deviant religious expression. In fact, by not choosing to respond to the accusation of being a Samaritan, Jesus stands in solidarity with that minority religious group who are persecuted, who are marginalized and oppressed by the dominant Jewish majority of the culture that Jesus lives in. And this is incredibly important for us. Jesus refuses to allow his religious tradition to be a wedge that will divide him from those that surround him. Jesus refuses to allow religion to be a wedge that will turn him against others and that he will take a step away from them in order to verify his bona fides with those who might want to criticize him. Instead, Jesus chooses solidarity. Jesus chooses his love, his grace. His religion is something that brings him closer to all people, all those who surround him, even those who come from different religious traditions. As Christians, this should be incredibly instructive for us, that our faith, our religion should never be the wedge that separates us from someone else. If that's what religion is for us, we're doing it wrong. And we're not doing it in the model of the Christ, whose religion, whose spirituality, whose faith brings him closer to all people. And so as a Christian, may you find your religious expression that draws you closer to all of the people who surround you. May your faith bring you closer to your neighbors, regardless of the religion they identify with. May you come closer to Christ by drawing closer to those who might feel oppressed or marginalized in your neighborhood right now. And in all of that, may you actually become a better follower of the Christ who invites us to find solidarity with all those who surround us.